Module 6, Relational Summary Lecture GNE2, Urban Ecology. Let's talk about cities. I'm talking about the subject I studied in graduate school, what we refer to as urban ecology. Now, lots of people don't think that's a thing. Sounds contradictory to them, right? Urban and ecology in the same breath, getting along? Unthinkable. Well, yes and no. It's true that most cities are the problem, not only in and of themselves with their wholesale conversion of once biodiverse meadow and forest and wetland into lifeless brick and mortar and concrete, and the huge emissions of greenhouse gases like CO2 and carbon monoxide and CFCs and toxins from their factories and vehicles and office buildings and apartment buildings and shopping centers and lawns, to say nothing of the disproportionate amount of garbage they produce, garbage which ends up in landfills or dumped in the ocean, killing wildlife and emitting overwhelming amounts of CO2 and methane and nitrous oxides. But one also has to look at the sheer ecological footprint of cities and their suburban feeder zones and the rural areas filled with factory farms that only exist to serve the insatiable appetites of urban populations. Today, more than 60% of the human race lives in cities, and the number is rising. And the vast majority of urban centers are in the north. So there's no way to talk about the ecology of the north and how it's being affected by climate disruption without talking about its most salient feature, a feature all too obvious to astronauts looking down at the Earth from outer space at night: cities. And to see how much the Earth has changed and how much urbanization and development there's been in merely the last 25 years, just look at these time-lapse pictures compiled by Google from NASA's Landsat program. It should be enough to sober you up real quick. And it underscores a principal cause of climate change, strangely not often invoked: landscape change. You see, we now know that soil is the most efficient absorber of carbon dioxide and methane and nitrogen, a literal sequestering organism. Soil is not mere dirt with nutrients for plants. It's a living ecosystem that is carbon negative, and growing soil has been ranked as one of the most important drawdown solutions we have. The superb documentary Kiss the Ground has interviews with scientists and farmers and policymakers that lead one to the conclusion that regenerating soil could not only draw down enough carbon per year to offset our current emissions, but actually reverse global warming. The initiative claiming this is called 4 per thousand, and it was started by France at the COP21 in 2015. The idea is, quote, an annual growth rate of 0.4% in the soil carbon stocks, or 4% per year, in the first 30 to 40 centimeters of soil would significantly reduce the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere related to human activities. This growth rate is not a normative target for each country, but is intended to show that even a small increase in the soil carbon stock, agricultural soils, notably grasslands and pastures and forest soils, is crucial to improve soil fertility and agricultural production and to contribute to achieving the long-term objective of limiting the temperature increase to the plus 2 degrees Celsius threshold, beyond which the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, indicates that the effects of climate change are significant. The 4 per thousand initiative is intended to complement those necessary efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions globally and generally in the economy as a whole. It is voluntary. It is up to each member to define how they want to contribute to the goals, end quote.